Let's go over the CPU, the GPU, the RAM, the NVMe SSDs that we ended up getting, the motherboard, the power supply, cable extensions, AIO, power supply, and case used inside of this computer. And then we'll go over the benchmarks and what you can actually expect inside of this computer. So for the graphics card, we ended up getting a Gigabyte RTX 4070 Ti. So for the CPU, we ended up getting an i7-14700KF. Now for the NVMe's, we ended up getting two. For the secondary SSD, we got a Western Digital 1TB WD Blue. And then for the main SSD that we're going to be installing the operating system on, we got a Samsung 990 EVO 1TB NVMe SSD. For the motherboard, we ended up getting an MSI Z790 Pro. And there's one problem with this motherboard that I have run into, and you might run into this problem when getting this as well, which I have a video on how you resolve this. But if you get this motherboard and your graphics card is not outputting a display and your motherboard has a white VGA light on, that is because you need to update the BIOS. Very simple to do, especially if you just use the MSI Centers application to update your BIOS, because you don't need a USB drive. You don't need to go into the BIOS and flash everything. MSI Centers application on PC will allow you to update the BIOS right through the actual application. But if you run into that problem with top PCIe slot not working, that is what's going on. I know that that's probably scaring a lot of people away with this motherboard. Pretty simple to resolve, but it is something to be noted, and I'd be lying if I didn't tell you that. So for the AIO, we ended up getting an NZXT Kraken 360mm AIO. So for the memory, we ended up getting G.Skill Trident Z5 RGB series, specifically for Intel. That's really why I like this RAM, and I've been using it so frequently lately, is because they've aimed their memory at specific CPUs. And an example that I'm going to use here is, let's say you have a universal phone case to fit your phone, and then you have a case that is dedicated and specifically designed for the exact phone that you have. The universal case isn't going to fit as well as the case that's specifically designed for your phone. Now take that and apply it to RAM. If you get something like Team Group T-Force DDR5, your XMP profiles and overclocking profiles are not going to be as stable as if you get something like G.Skill RAM, where it's specifically designed to work well with the CPU that you ended up getting. So that's really why I've been getting this memory. So for the power supply extensions, just got some Asia Horse power supply extensions. For the fans, we got my favorite fans, Up Here fans, and the reason that I like these so much is because it comes with an RGB hub, which you can then control all of the RGB with one single thing. And it's not just the remote, because the remote has a motherboard option so that you can control everything with your motherboard. So for the power supply, we ended up getting a GameMax 850 watt power supply. It does its job. It looks good. I have not run into any problems getting this power supply. I've been building computers for about 2 years now. I've used this power supply quite a few times, so I haven't had anybody reach back out to me saying they have issues. And as far as the case, we ended up getting an NZXT H9 Flow case. Overall, man, computer performs extremely well. The 1440p benchmarks, you're going to be getting about 150 FPS on average for most games, and then at 4K, you're going to be hovering around the 100 FPS range. So yes, I'm fully aware it's going to vary quite a bit within 50 FPS from both of those, but for the most part, if you add in a few AAA games, a few indie games, and then you kind of like average the FPS out, that's where you're going to land. However, if you're playing Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing enabled and all of that kind of stuff, yes, of course, you're not going to be getting 100 FPS at 4K. Probably going to be getting something like 50 to 60 FPS. It's going to cut it in half if you enable ray tracing. However, if you do that and then you use DLSS, you're going to go back up to that 100 FPS, but that's not technically true 4K, quote unquote. But yeah, hopefully you guys have fun building your computer, and I wish you guys the best of the luck, and I hope this video helped you.